Plato has been fighting for truth for over 2,300 years. Reading his dialogues now, I marvel that the same philosophical objections that I am confronted with were being debated even back in Plato's day. Some of these arguments, such as those dealing with relativism, very much remind me of debates that I had back in my university days. But after reading Plato's dialogue Theaetetus, it is clear that Plato already put these arguments to rest. So why do they persist? Well, I would suggest that one reason, at least, is because of how attractive they appear to those who are focused on the physical realm. This physical world is indeed the realm of relativity, and if this is all there were, these arguments would have some merit at least. It's only those people who intuit something more than physical who would even begin to peek beyond the veil of materiality. So let's take a look at how Socrates handles relativism. I'm going to focus in this video on a section of Plato's Theaetetus in which he explores what follows if perceptions are knowledge. Now, when I am in health and drink wine, it seems pleasant to me and sweet. Yes, because in accordance with the account we accepted earlier, agent and patient give birth to sweetness and a sensation, both movements that pass simultaneously. The sensation on the patient's side makes the tongue percipient, while on the side of the wine, the sweetness moving in the region of the wine causes it both to be and to appear sweet to the healthy tongue. Certainly that was what we agreed upon. But when it finds me in ill health, to begin with, the person it finds is not really the same, for the one it now meets with is unlike the other. The argument here is that we each experience things, such as wine, differently. The same person even will experience wine differently at different times. The wine then, according to this argument, is not truly sweet or truly bitter. That conclusion is relative to the person experiencing it. Then my perception is true for me, for its object at any moment is my reality, and I am, as Protagoras says, the judge of what is for me that it is, and of what is not that it is not. So it appears. If then I am infallible and make no mistake in my state of mind about what is or becomes, how can I fail to have knowledge of the things of which I have perception? You cannot possibly fail. So you are perfectly right in saying that knowledge is nothing but perception. Well, this argument may hold some merit in terms of wine. I have my preferences and you have yours. And to a materialist who thinks that the physical realm is ultimate reality, these preferences certainly do seem like knowledge. Is that really what knowledge is, though? Or are these opinions? Socrates is not quite ready to accept that knowledge is nothing but perception. Now that he built up the argument, he's ready to argue the other side. He starts by citing the sophist Protagoras, who famously stated, "What seems to anyone also is." Socrates dryly mocks this claim, pointing out that he could have just as easily written, "The measure of all things is the pig, or the baboon, or some sentient creature still more uncouth." There would have been something magnificent in so disdainful an opening to Protagoras' book, telling us that all the time while we were admiring him for a wisdom more than mortal, he was in fact no wiser than a tadpole, to say nothing of any other human being. And indeed, this is one of the implications of relativism. If truth is whatever seems so to me, then nobody can ever tell me that I'm wrong or that they are wiser. If what every man believes as a result of perception is indeed to be true for him, if, just as no one is to be a better judge of what another experiences, so no one is better entitled to consider whether what another thinks is true or false. And as we have said more than once, every man is to have his own beliefs for himself alone, and they are all right and true. Then, my friend, where is the wisdom of Protagoras to justify his setting up to teach others and to be handsomely paid for it? And where is our comparative ignorance, or the need for us to go and sit at his feet, when each of us is himself the measure of his own wisdom? And Socrates is not done yet. He goes on to show what other absurdities would follow if our perceptions were indeed knowledge. Well, are we going to agree that whenever we perceive something by sight or hearing, we also at the same time know it? Take the case of a foreign language we have not learned. Are we to say that we do not hear the sounds that foreigners utter, or that we both hear and know what they are saying? Or again, when we don't know our letters, are we to maintain that we don't see them when we look at them, or that, since we see them, we do know them? There are many other problematic implications. What happens when we close our eyes and so are no longer perceiving? If perception were knowledge, then we would not be able to claim that we know the things we remember when we're not perceiving them. Socrates continues playing in this way. If we shut one eye but perceive with the other, do we know and not know at the same time? And Socrates points out there are a number of playful examples. Whether knowing can be keen or dim, whether you can know from close at hand what you cannot know from a distance, or know the same things with more or less intensity. But then Socrates gets more serious. He chastises himself in the voice of Protagoras for making light of this theory. No, he will say, show a more generous spirit by attacking what I actually say, and prove, if you can, that we have not, each one of us, his peculiar perceptions, or that, granting them to be peculiar, it would not follow that what appears to each becomes, or is, if we may use the word is, for him alone to whom it appears. With this talk of pigs and baboons, you are behaving like a pig yourself. And, what is more, you tempt your hearers to treat my writings in the same way, which is not fair. For I do indeed assert that the truth is as I have written. Each one of us is a measure of what is and of what is not. But there is all the difference in the world between one man and another, just in the very fact that what is and appears to one is different from what is and appears to the other. And as for wisdom and the wise man, I am very far from saying they do not exist. By a wise man, I mean precisely a man who can change any one of us when what is bad appears and is to him, and make what is good appear and be to him. It is not clear in this argument who determines what is good versus what is bad. Still, it is steel-manned as much as it perhaps can be. And so now Socrates proceeds to question Protagoras, with one of the sophist's disciples, Theodoras, answering for his teacher. Indeed, the world is full of people looking for those who can instruct and govern men and animals and direct their doings, and on the other hand, of people who think themselves quite competent to undertake the teaching and governing. In all these cases, what can we say, if not that men do hold that wisdom and ignorance exist among them? We must say that. And they hold that wisdom lies in thinking truly, and ignorance in false belief? Of course. In that case, Protagoras, what are we to make of your doctrine? Are we to say that what men think is always true, or that it is sometimes true and sometimes false? For either supposition, it results that their thoughts are not always true, but both true and false. For consider, Theodorus, are you, or is any Protagorean, prepared to maintain that no one regards anyone else as ignorant or as making false judgments? Do you see what Socrates is doing here? Even if you maintain that every thought is true, you still fall into this paradoxical conclusion that thoughts are both true and false. And that is because we have all judged someone else as false. Now, if all thoughts are true, then the thought that is true for me can be truly false for someone else. That is incredible, Socrates. That, however, is the inevitable consequence of the doctrine which makes man the measure of all things. How so? When you have formed a judgment on some matter in your own mind and express an opinion about it to me, let us grant that, as Protagoras' theory says, it is true for you. But are we to understand that it is impossible for us, the rest of the company, to pronounce any judgment upon your judgment? Or, if we can, that we always pronounce your opinion to be true? Do you not rather find thousands of opponents who set their opinion against yours on every occasion and hold that your judgment and belief are false? Relativism opens the door to a democracy of truth, where each person gets a vote, and that vote determines what truth is. That follows if its truth or falsity varies with each individual opinion. Yes, and besides that, it involves a really exquisite conclusion. Protagoras, for his part, admitting as he does that everybody's opinion is true, must acknowledge the truth of his opponent's belief about his own belief, where they think he is wrong. Certainly. That is to say, he would acknowledge his own belief to be false if he admits that the belief of those who think him wrong is true? Necessarily. But the others, on their side, do not admit to themselves that they are wrong. No. Whereas Protagoras, once more, according to what he has written, admits that this opinion of theirs is as true as any other. Evidently. On all hands, then, Protagoras included, his opinion will be disputed, or rather, Protagoras will join in the general consent, when he admits to an opponent the truth of his contrary opinion. From that moment, Protagoras himself will be admitting that a dog or the man in the street is not the measure of anything whatever that he does not understand. Isn't that so? Yes. As fun as Socrates' arguments are, I think we need to step back for a moment and see what we've actually got up to this point. There is one area in which things are as they appear to each person, and this is in regards to things such as smell and taste. Socrates makes this clear. And further, shall we say that the doctrine would find its firmest footing in the position we traced out in our defense of Protagoras, that most things, hot, dry, sweet, everything of that sort, are to each person as they appear to him? Whereas Socrates is not willing to extend that argument beyond the realm of opinion. Whereas, if there is any case in which the theory would concede that one man is superior to another, it might consent to admit that, in the matter of good or bad health, here, if anywhere, one person is superior to another. Socrates then makes a further distinction. And again, in social matters, the theory will say that, so far as good or bad customs, or rights and wrongs, or matters of religion are concerned, whatever any state makes up its mind to enact as lawful for itself, really is lawful for it. And in this field, no individual or state is wiser than another. But where it is a question of laying down what is for its advantage or disadvantage, once more there, if anywhere, the theory will admit a difference between two advisors or between the decisions of two different states in respect of truth, and would hardly venture to assert that any enactment which a state supposes to be for its advantage will quite certainly be so. Socrates clarifies this even further. Whatever name the state may give it, advantage is surely the aim of its legislation, and all its laws, to the full extent of its belief and power, are laid down as being for its own best profit. Or has it any other object in view when it makes laws? None. Then does it also hit the mark every time? Or does every state often miss its aim completely? I should say that mistakes are often made. So what Socrates is acknowledging in this leg of the discussion is that opinion and truth are two separate categories. Some people like red wine, others think it's too bitter. We are each welcome to our opinions and to our preferences. And in a similar vein, societies can decide on laws and enforce them. Those who don't like the laws can certainly try to change them. But laws at the societal level, these too are in the realm of opinion. Whether the laws are good, however, and advantageous to the state, is another matter entirely. Now, the hypothesis that perceptions are knowledge has taken many hits, but Socrates does not truly deliver its death blow until he reaches beyond the realm of perception. He introduces into the discussion things in themselves: sameness, difference, unity, number. He then asks, with which part of the body do we perceive these? It is clear to me that the mind in itself is its own instrument for contemplating the common terms that apply to everything. And it is from here that Socrates is finally able to put to rest that notion that knowledge is in perceptions, and that things truly are as they seem to any given person. Under which head, then, do you place existence? For that is, above all, a thing that belongs to everything. I should put it among the things that the mind apprehends by itself. and also likeness and unlikeness, and sameness and difference? Yes. And how about honorable and dishonorable, and good and bad? Those again seem to me, above all, to be things whose being is considered, one in comparison with another, by the mind, when it reflects within itself upon the past and the present, with an eye to the future. Wait a moment. The hardness of something hard and the softness of something soft will be perceived by the mind through touch, will they not? Yes. But their existence and the fact that they both exist, and their contrariety to one another, and again the existence of this contrariety, are things which the mind itself undertakes to judge for us when it reflects upon them and compares one with another. Certainly. Is it not true, then, that whereas all the impressions which penetrate to the mind through the body are things which men and animals alike are naturally constituted to perceive from the moment of birth, reflections about them with respect to their existence and usefulness only come, if they come at all, with difficulty through a long and troublesome process of education? Assuredly. Is it possible, then, to reach truth when one cannot reach existence? It is impossible. But if a man cannot reach the truth of a thing, can he possibly know that thing? No, Socrates, how could he? If that is so, knowledge does not reside in the impressions, but in our reflections upon them. It is there, seemingly, and not in the impressions, that it is possible to grasp existence and truth. Well, this was a long passage, but I gave it to you in full because it is important. Our physical perceptions tell us about the physical world. This is the world of the proverbial cave. In this world is the realm of opinions. To leave the cave, we must turn towards things in themselves and contemplate truth itself, separate from appearances. And this is the aim of our studies. To wallow in the arguments of relativism is to stay chained in the cave, staring at shadows on a wall and thinking that they are true because they seem so to you. Relativism was really in vogue when I was a university student back in the 1990s. Everybody is right in their own way, and it was only those close-minded people like myself who thought that truth was anything real. So I had these sorts of debates all the time. That was a long time ago, though, and I wonder, has anything changed? What have your experiences been like when dealing with relativism? Let me know in the comments section. And as always, I thank you for watching. Till next time.